Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy here. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And today we are working on the 2005 Honda Odyssey, which is a fixing it forward project. And just to bring you up to speed, I purchased this van for $500 not too long ago. And with the money that you donated, I have since replaced the timing belt and water pump, fixed some oil leaks. It was originally assumed that it had a blown engine, but I determined that was actually a catalytic converter that came apart and clogged up the third catalytic converter in the back and was restricting exhaust flow, thus giving it performance issues. So we've addressed that issue. We've addressed a few other things. Rear suspension, we went and replaced the rear lower control arms and the coil springs back there to bring everything back up to its proper ride height. Additionally, all 4 tires are new thanks to Nokian, and we've gone through and done a 4-wheel brake job. So there's been quite a bit that's done to the mechanical side of this. But now I'm going to start turning my attention more towards the interior, which, if you remember, well, was kind of sketch. So I'm going to go through and start dealing with some of those issues, any electrical issues. Also, the door rollers on the sliding doors are a little bit questionable, and given that I'm going to give this to somebody and I don't want them to have to worry about it, I'm just going to replace the door rollers on both sides of the van at this time. So I'm not really quite sure what we'll get into in this video, but I will try to pack it full of useful information that you could use to fix your own vehicles. Let's get started. Since I have all these doors open and they're going to be open for a bit, I'm going to turn off the main power to the lights so that I don't have to worry about it running down the battery. This rear cargo light has its own switch. Looks like the courtesy lights remain on though. Oh well. I think job one for me in here is one, to get rid of some of this trash that's just sort of sitting around in here that I could easily get rid of. But also to address this glove box that's on the floor here. I also have a new cabin air filter I'm going to throw in while I'm at it. Oh, cool. Super Ball. It's all sparkly too. I might have to keep this. Yeah, I'm keeping it. I'm going to use my fancy light for the first time in a vehicle. This was a technician who invented this thing. Looks like it'll be pretty handy. I think I'm going to start with the cabin air filter since it's right flipping here and is obviously in desperate need of replacement. But before I put the new one in, I'm going to shoot my shop vac down in there and catch any debris that might have fallen down into the blower motor. Before I do that, I found something else we got to add to our list. Looks like the handle broke off of this glove box. I'm going to save it so I can swap the lock over, but it's kind of common for these to get loose and maybe stay shut, and that's what I fear might have happened here. It also looks like there's some breakage there. So I'm going to toss this in the back, vacuum out the blower motor, and well, put this on the list of things to get. Hopefully we can find one in this color. But if we don't, I believe we can swap this face over to whatever we get. Well, now I've gone and done it. I made a clean spot. So after I get this cabin air filter in, I think I'm just gonna continue on with the cleaning. I got this particular cabin air filter because it had air freshener built in. Smells, I don't know. Doesn't smell bad, but it's weird. Here is the result after cleaning. Well, after vacuuming, I can't really call it cleaning, but the large chunks are gone. Found a lot of stuff down here in between this area right there. There was a lot of junk that went down in there. But I did want to show you this. These came equipped with what's called the Lazy Susan. This was under the carpet. And it's got like this little compartment here you can access it with. This was the spare tire well. But now it's got this guy. That's kind of a neat little feature. I found Lego Batman in the seat pocket. I thought I'd share with you. I did find the headphones, which these are probably gross, but I did find them. These go with the DVD player on this vehicle. Also pulled out the seats that I could pull out. These are the mats. And I did get front lower splash shield and both front fender liners. So I'll be installing those also, and likely in this video. Seems less gross with the seats down. You can definitely tell that they hauled some firewood with it. I'm not so worried about this because I know I can fix this. I have the piece and I have the type of glue that you use to put that back in. So I'm not worried about that. I'll be able to fix that also in this video. But here's some other cool stuff. I have no idea what this is, but this was in one of the compartments in the back. So yuck. But I also found this, which I thought was interesting. It makes it kind of international, right? I'm gonna put this guy in this cubby with the dollar that I found originally with this thing. See this guy down here that used to plug in down there? I think it was part of a radar detector system. The other part is out here. I'm gonna remove this. Actually, I don't know what this is, if this is some kind of fast pass deal or what, or maybe XM, I don't know. Either way, I think it's gonna leave. I also found this piece and I'm not sure what this goes to. It's likely covers up some component on the seat somewhere. Looks like this is the other side of those wires, and they ran it through right here. I also checked to make sure that the jack and tools were still here, and they are. Looks like there was a rattle here at some point. Or, I don't think this comes from the factory this way, but somebody put a bunch of felt on here to keep the stuff from rattling around. I suspect their efforts would have been even more effective had they mounted this properly, which I can do. When you mount this in here, you need to run this up so that it squeezes itself into place. There's a little peg down there that fits into a hole in the jack, and then you just keep running it up until it wedges in there. There. That's all you've got to do. So now it should stop moving around and stop rattling. Also found this. This is a sunroof tool. If the sunroof were ever to go out, there's a little, there, I'll show you. Say the sunroof goes out. Well, you can take this little plug out and then run this tool up into here, and you can crank it closed. It just goes in and turns it a 90. I think that guy clips in here like this. Now before I go and remove, well, whatever that electronic thing is, I'm gonna get started on reattaching this piece of carpeting. And it's gonna be fairly simple. I'm just gonna use this adhesive here, which is just for this kind of thing. And the reason I'm doing it in this order is because once you apply this adhesive, it has to sit for like 5 minutes or so before you can actually attach it. So I think this is a good opportunity to do that. You have to spray both sides. Let's go start our removal, and then we'll jump back and reattach this in a minute. I don't feel the need to be nice about this removal at all, since I'm not saving whatever this is. So this wire might come, yeah. Like it was never there. As long as I got the scraper out. Before we go diving up under the dash, remember this guy? Well, I think the adhesive is probably cured enough by now. So, I want to get a screwdriver or something I can reattach those with. Get it mostly in there. and then start pushing everything under it. Now I see why they only put the adhesive in the center, because fishing it under here while it's trying to attach itself is challenging. I'm not going to say that it's perfect, but I say it looks better than it was, and I wager it's going to stay in place. I just got that little wrinkle there I can't quite get rid of. All right, I pulled the lower dash panel down just a little bit. Whatever it is connected to those two wires, and they seem to head up towards the radio. Given that the power source and everything is going to be disconnected, I'm not going to sweat it. I'm just going to cut these wires and pull this out of here. So it's XM, is what this was, which, at least in my view, is useless. I mean, you've got tons of other stuff to do in this vehicle. You've got DVD players and all kinds of stuff. And in later models, they incorporated XM already into the sound system. But before I do put it completely back together, maybe it's not a bad idea to check the radio, which I have the code right here for. We can check to see if that's correct too. Which it is. Nice. It's funny because this already has XM in it, so it isn't later models, it's this one. So this one actually does have XM. So I guess they wanted Sirius. I don't know. I don't want to do any copyright BS, so I'm gonna jump off here for a second and check it, and then I'll be right back. All right, it does have sound. The antenna sucks, but it has sound. While I'm here, I thought, why not reset the maintenance light and also set my oil change sticker before I forget. Hold down, select reset, turn the key on, but you got to do it for a while, like a while. There we go. Since I'm here, I'm gonna put an oil change sticker in it. I'm gonna set the oil change at 6,000 miles, but the maintenance minder system also comes on and takes care of that too. All right, let's get all this junk back together. This is an expensive seal on the door, and you'll note that it's sort of come away, and you see these little orange clips. They actually fit into the rubber at these points, which look to be a little bit damaged. Now, I've had some success in the past reattaching these. Like I said, this is I think going to be a couple $100 because it runs the entire perimeter of the door and along the top here. But I think I can salvage what's here. I'm going to try to do that. Yeah, I think I can. I'm going to try to do that and get this attached so it's not flopping around anymore. I'm going to start with removing as many of these clips as I can. They like have one side that you can push in. It's a little tricky, but you can get these out without destroying them. And you do that by pushing in those sides. So I just try to grab the top of the clip, push it in, pull one side out and try to grab the other and get the other out. So I'm going to do this with all the clips that are visible. Tried to be nice with plastic trim tools, but the 11th finger always gets me in a clutch. It came out along the top here a little bit. It just needs to be pushed back down in. Yeah, that's good. Insert these back into the holes that they came out of, and then sort of assess the situation. Like, do I need to add a little bit of weather strip adhesive in here or not? But these will just go in the holes where they came out of. Like I said, the ideal is going to be to replace this piece, but these are expensive. And if you can get away without replacing them, great. I think so long as nobody grabs it accidentally, it'll be fine. Now I'm going to take care of those door rollers. Here's the part numbers for you. Now I've covered this in detail, and this will be the left one over here. I've covered this in detail in other videos, which I'll link down in the description, but I'm just gonna give you an overview here. Since I'm gonna have these taillights out, I'm just gonna check to make sure all the bulbs work first, because they're gonna be out. If I need to change anything, well, no better time. Start with the brakes. Looks like might be one here that's out. I don't know if there's one or two up there. Those lights are all working. Running lights, those all seem to work. By the way, I also check the ones on the front at the same time. Looks like it just has one bulb in it. Yeah, there's only one. And it's working. Where were we? These weren't horrible, but they were just starting to go. See how that one's kind of chunky and falling apart? I'm gonna bring over the new part and I'll show you the difference. Yeah, so check out the new part. Anyway, common failure. Glad to be taking care of it now. Really glad I found that. Word for a guy who called these Jesus clips, because that's what he said when he lost them. Oh man. Oops, forgot to remove the jack. Can't forget about that part. So don't forget to remove the jack. You were probably yelling at me the whole time to move the jack, weren't you? That's one side done. Oh look, someone was kind enough to lose the plastic clips over these already. Thank you, random person. You saved me steps. Certainly not nearly as bad on the passenger side, but I don't mind replacing them. Well, that's job done. Well, I think it's time to deal with this. And there's a little bit, and there was a little bit on this also. That I think would be easy. I think it's just a spring or a hook that just needs to be redone there. But this passenger seat, somebody went in here, did something, and I'm not sure why. And this was found on the ground. It actually belongs up in here. It's funny how that light just likes to not shine on stuff. Anyway, if I got a seat cover for this, I'd lose this handle, I'd lose these pockets, I'd lose all this stuff. So I don't really see doing that as a viable option. So I'm going to do what I can to try to put at least this side part back together and get that all sorted. I may be able to do something with this. This is a set of hog ring pliers, and these are called hog rings. And this is pretty much what holds together a lot of upholstery. Normally, on the bottom of this piece, there's a plastic clip that is stitched onto this, similar to what's here. In fact, it's just the opposite, and they hook into each other so that these two pieces can stay together. I just don't see getting the pieces for this, or trying to find another set of seats. That seems super expensive, and we're so close to the end of this, and I'd like to get it moved on to somebody who needs it. I'm going to try this first, is basically what this boils down to. So here I go. Use a plastic trim tool. All right, get this down in here. Now, the bad part about this is once these are in, you need to cut them to get them out. And one tip is to start in the center and work your way out. That way you can kind of work out the wrinkles or creases or anything that might be happening. But normally would be a plastic piece here that I'd be able to just pull down and it would interlock. And these clips very nicely fit into this tool. And I'm just going to put 3 of them this way. I won't have to work too hard to get it apart, or whomever won't have to work too hard to get it apart if that's ever necessary. Ideal? No. Fixed? Heck yeah. For this one, I was able to there's a couple of springs that hold this up here. I was able to find those springs and hook those back up. Looks way better now. Glove box is ordered, should be here in a week or so. In the meantime, I'm hoping to maybe clean these seats up a little bit, is where I'm at right now. A lot of the carpet's been cleaned, and I can clean those all-season mats before I reinstall those and the other seats. Possibly do some stuff with that carpet. I'm not really sure. There's only so much you can do, I suppose. So this was sent to me a while ago, and I'm going to try it here because it's for exactly this kind of thing. And I'll say that I'm not going to cover this in detail. I mean, I'm cleaning stuff. How much of that do you really need to see other than the result when I'm done? Hopefully we get a result. Well, it's not perfect, but it certainly seems better. Hello again, viewers. You're probably wondering why this engine is apart again. And the reason is I just adjusted the valves. And believe me, it was a real pain to do, as I anticipated. And also, as I anticipated, none of the valves were too tight. They were all a little bit loose. I just snugged them all up just a little bit. And it was a monumental effort to get there. Now, I'm happy to put my best foot forward, but once again, I stand by my original assessment as far as not adjusting the valves on this. I didn't feel it was necessary. Anyway, all that aside, one of my other motivations for doing this, aside from appeasing some of you commenters, was to get a look inside the engine to see how effective that oil treatment was. Let's have a look. And here's that front cylinder head again, and there's the back one. The front one was we'll call it the problem one. Now, it's not completely clean, and I wasn't necessarily expecting that, but you can sort of see down here where some of it's starting to get washed away. I'll try to get a shot of the cylinder head before I did this treatment to see if we can do a comparison. But let me show you something else. Here's the inside of the valve cover for that same cylinder head. Not a whole lot of changes here. Kind of didn't expect any, but there's the result. So the people at True Brand who sent me the cleaner that I used in that last video also sent me this, which is what I should have used. They watched the video and they were like, hey, maybe you should have used this instead. So I should have drained the oil and ran this through and followed the instructions for this. What I used was more of a, after this kind of thing, more of a maintenance upkeep kind of deal. But personally, I feel that if you're changing your oil on a regular basis, this stuff isn't an issue. However, if you've got gunk built up inside of the engine, it's nice to try and get rid of it. Once again, I think regular oil changes will go a long way towards this, but I want to thank True Brand for sending this stuff anyway. By the way, they're not sponsoring this video. They just sent me this stuff and I had an opportunity to use it. They also sent me this, which I'll throw in the fuel tank after I fill it up before I give it to the new owner. To do the valve adjustment, I removed the inner fender liner. You might remember it was damaged anyway, and I'm going to replace it now. I'm going to replace it and the lower splash shield for the front here. That will hopefully help hold the bumper on a little bit better. But that's what I'm going to do now. Well, I'm going to do that after I put this engine back together. So be back in a minute. Well, I managed to put it back together, and I had all the fasteners, so that's a win. I'm going to start it up now and listen to it. And just FYI, if you're doing valve adjustments on something, don't forget to take your ratchet off the crank if you had it on there. Just saying. Don't ask me how I know. Anyway, there's no ratchet on the crankshaft right now. I'm going to start it up, see how it runs, make sure it still does. Hopefully it's not noisy, and we'll move on to the next thing. There was some power steering fluid loss, so that little bit of noise is expected. It's a little shaky. But that may be because I went through, I cleaned the intake out again, so there's likely solvent and stuff floating around in there, upsetting the mixture. But it's not rattling like the valves are too loose, and that's a win for me. All right, let's move on to those splash shields and fender covers. This is the old fender liner that I removed. Well, you can see it came loose. The fender liner on its left side is still intact, so I'm gonna leave that be. It'll be more secure once I attach this middle piece, which I am installing. This one, as mentioned, has already been removed. I did save this for you though. The stuff that collects behind here, right? It's gross. Plus lots and lots of spiders. And remember, spiders are the #1 cause of brake failure. Just kidding. Here's something I think that's worth mentioning, but is it the end of the world? Probably not. There's a teeny tiny exhaust leak here. You can see a little bit of moisture there, and I can barely hear something, but it seems to be coming from this area, but I'm not really sure what I can do about it. I mean, that's a brand new gasket. Well, first, we'll get rid of some of that. And these are just held in, for the most part, with plastic clips. Hopefully these clips are the right size. No, these new plastic clips are garbage because they're not the right size. Gonna go hunting for some clips. Those work. Have to find more of that. The Honda ones are just stupid expensive. I will admit, new clips do go in better. All right. Now for the bolts that hold these things on, I usually go with a little bit of anti-seize, just because where these are located and they go into plastic, well, it's good to be prepared. The other thing is I don't like run them down super tight, just, this is plastic after all. That's good. Let's see if this other piece offers us some more security. So these were too big for the other things, but they might work on this. Oh no, you're getting drilled out larger. I'm using these clips. I'm not using up all of my other ones. Or should I put this on the outside? No, I'm gonna leave it like this. The reason why I was contemplating that is because this happened, well, part of this happened, went up over a curb, and then when you back up, it grabs the whole front bumper and wants to pull it off. So I try to find ways to trim things back and minimize that issue. I got one clip in. I'm so excited. It's pretty sad, the things that I claim victory on sometimes. Another fine product from the Sorta-Fit line. Sorta-Fit, your #1 choice for almost. Sorta-Fit. We could have tried harder, but we didn't. I should go into advertising. That does feel way better than it did when I started. And it'll offer some protection as well. Now what, Eric? Well, good question, because I've pretty much covered all the mechanical stuff that I wanted to do. However, I do remember that there might have been like an SRS light or something like that that has yet to return. So I'm gonna do a couple of things. First, I'm gonna put all the seats and everything back in it. And then I talked to my used car neighbor, he owns a used car lot, and asked him if I could have his detail guys go through the van and clean it up, and he offered me a good price on that, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna pay for that, not fixing it forward, just because I don't feel like doing it and I don't wanna take the time. Additionally, I need to get an alignment. We got those new tires, we put those new lower control arms and everything else, so we wanna protect that investment of those new tires, so I've gotta get that done. So I'm gonna see if I can get myself a temporary tag for this, which allows me to drive it for 30 days, put some insurance on it, and I'm gonna drive it for a bit and see if there's any issues with it. Did a lot of work to this, it sat for a long period of time. I've been burned in the past by just putting it together and shipping it out the door. So I think some quality seat time in this is warranted, just to make sure that everything is okay. So I'm gonna get those things done, we'll circle back, and then we'll close out the video, and then after that, it's time to find somebody to give this van to. And we're back. Well, I have a few things to share with you because there's been new developments. I recently got a temporary tag for the van so that I could drive it around, and I'm glad I did, because I did find a problem. While driving on the highway for about 10 minutes, all of a sudden the check engine light came on, the VSA light came on, and it went into limpid, which meant it had very little power. Transmission shifting was also affected. Pretty much I had to nurse it back to the shop. And I've pulled some codes, and I'll share those with you now. These are very similar to the codes I got when I got the van initially. I'll start with the ABS, which is also the VSA system. Battery voltage, that came up again, but we got a new battery, new connections and everything, so we know that's not the issue. ECM, powertrain control module relation failure, and a controller area network relation malfunction. So it sounds like we got a communication issue going on here. Additionally, I've got a code for the rocker arm actuator control system stuck on for variable valve timing or variable cylinder management. That's no bueno. And we have a few SRS codes, an open in the left front seatbelt buckle, a short in passenger airbag cutoff indicator, not really sure what that involves, and an open in the seat position sensor. So we've got some stuff. I feel like I've covered a lot in this video up to this point, and I'm going to end it here. I'm going to cover these codes and the repair of these codes in the next video. Sorry to do that to you, but like I said, we've covered a lot here. I don't want this video to be super long. And hopefully by the end of the next video, we'll have this thing mechanically squared away and be ready to give it to, well, whomever it's going to go to. Anyway, stick around for that. I'll put links in the description to additional information, additional videos, all kinds of stuff. So check the description if you have questions about anything you saw or didn't see in this video. If you have automotive questions, I ask that you head to EricTheCarGuy.com, also linked down in the description. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit notifications. Thank you so much for watching today. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty, and I'll see you next time.